Hello everybody, this is Asnointia here. Today I'm going to be talking about the Divine Feminine and the Divine Feminine energy, how it affects not only females, but males as well. So I have made notes, and honestly it is a lengthy list because there's so many aspects and traits, characteristics that are inside of the heart of a woman. Many of us females know that. There's so many emotions. Some of the males out there may wonder, I can never really understand her. Well, there's certain reasons for that. This particular audio recording is going to be related more to the effects and the trauma and the memories that we have from past lives, how that affects us in this lifetime, how it can also affect our behaviors, our reactions, the way we talk to somebody, the way we may avoid certain situations or people. And it basically comes down to the nature of a woman, somebody who is, of course, nurturing, caring, protecting, but also who avoids certain things like confrontation, and why we do that. Now, I did create a video, or rather an audio recording, on the same channel, and it's called the Divine Masculine Energy. So I did need to create a Divine Feminine. So I am going to start off with a bit of details. Then I'm going to break it down to different areas and go from there. In between, I might just randomly have some, epiphany or something that I would like to add in. So I'll try my best. It's honestly really lengthy, so I will try my best to keep it a bit concise. So, starting off with the soul. As I've mentioned in some of my other audio recordings, when the Creator created one soul for what we call one individual, where the twin flame comes from is when that soul was split in half. And there you have the yin and the yang. You get the divine feminine, you get the divine masculine. Now with this energy, I have already spoken in another video about the divine masculine, but now we're going to focus on the feminine. The soul itself, this is at that point two different people. However, we still, as individuals, we still have the masculine essence as well as the feminine, because it all sprung from one soul. Now, here we have sometimes a connection where typically when we are born, we're raised as females, there is this inherent nurturing kind of feeling that we have. Of course, that's in our DNA, it's by nature as well. But sometimes there's certain reasons why we feel the way that we do. A really silly example this might be, it was very strange for me to see this. My niece must have been 1.5 years old, or maybe just about 1. She was so young. And there was this brush. Some of you in certain countries may have seen this type of brush. It's a compact kind of brush, and you can open it, and the bristles, they kind of like come outwards. But if you push it outwards, it actually looks like a bug. It looks like a spider. It never occurred to me. But my niece was playing with this. And I'm telling you, she was still in diapers. She opens it up, and it looks like these tentacles, these legs of this giant spider. she completely freaks out. She takes it out, she looks at it, and she truly acted like a girl would when we see a mouse, a rat, or cockroach, or a spider. She literally freaked out. And she had never seen or encountered bugs before. But that reaction was so typical to what a grown female, what many of us, we have the weirdest kind of fears and phobias sometimes. Some of them are actual phobias. But this was really interesting because it just showed me that, it doesn't matter what your age is. There are certain memories that come back to haunt us. So in her past life, she may have encountered bugs or something, like some critters, and maybe she didn't like them. But I remember her shivering in a way where it was disgusting. I think all of us have those kind of cootie shivers, those freaky things that we get. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to be near this thing. It's so gross. So she actually at that age did this. She displayed this behavior. And for years, I didn't know why she did that until I started doing past life readings. And now I see that it was a memory from one of the various past lives where she knew how to react to something like this automatically. It was just by nature. It was instinctive. But it was very girly. It was very feminine. I am going to be getting into actual examples of readings that I've done. And I'm going to go over a few things now. So, the female qualities and the qualities even in a male that may have feminine characteristics, there's a whole lot of nurturing love. There's motherly love. Even fatherly, that still comes from the divine, the feminine energy is there. Our nature of beauty and always wanting to look attractive, our best. Some women on the opposite end of the spectrum, very jealous because of someone, the way they look, the way they're successful. There is competition. Men don't really compete for looks, not as much. No, they don't. Maybe nowadays they do, but it's not on the level of women. Well, I think we all know the advertising and marketing world. It's full of so many photoshopped faces. Most of it is photoshopped, airbrushed. And that once upon a time used to be my field. So I wanted to get into something a tad more meaningful where I could actually have an impact on someone's life. So that's when I did change from my field into the justice system. But other than that, there's a whole lot of materialism these days. And that is the expectation that so many people have, women and men. Look your best, smell your best, act your best. The clothes have to be great. Oh my goodness. It has changed and it's evolving to the point where it has become toxic in certain societies. We also have here jealousy, the wrath of a woman who has been scorned, wrath of a female. Intuition of a female. The herbs and spices that one would make long, long time ago for healing. A caretaker. Someone who wants to protect herself and her family and her loved ones. Somebody who may have gotten into witchcraft, what would be considered at the time witchcraft. Someone who sacrifices themselves for the greater good. Someone who is a survivor. Surviving many atrocities, so many things happen in so many women's lives. My God, we've seen so much on this planet. Worst of the worst kind of hideous crimes that were in the past and that still occur even today. Now, I'm just going to go over a few things regarding this. Now, nurturing love, as individuals, some of us do have this quality. Not everybody, however, is so nurturing. And why is that? Some of us are not so nurturing because the masculine energy from the past life is more in our life in this time. So, as some of you may have seen the Divine Masculine video that I created, it talks a lot about people, men, particularly men, going off to battle over the centuries. Ever since the beginning of civilization, where people have realized that property had value, there were a lot of wars. And so there would be battles, men would go off. Now, some of us who have been incarnated, some of us who are here now, our souls experienced that particular kind of life back then. And so some of us can be very nurturing, but some of us who may have seen a lot of war, a lot of negativity around in our lives, we actually might not be so nurturing. Now, spiritually and through the soul's memory, this is why this occurs. Of course, we have the environment that we live in, the people that we're around, our schooling, our friend circle, all that kind of stuff. That also creates us into what we are. It molds us into who we are now. But then we also have motherly love. I have seen some amazing mothers, and I have seen some people who did not deserve to have children. Plain and simple. I've seen both sides. And it's not just seeing, but I've actually experienced it. I've been with people like that. And it's difficult for myself, being so nurturing and caring, to see a person who's neglecting their child, or not even, doing certain things. But it's also because the female herself has gone through so much. There's trauma there. There's a reason why she does what she does, because something happened to her. It always stems from an individual's history, why they behave the way that they do. But here, sometimes with motherly love, I have done some readings where there are some women, and this is very common. I've done some past life readings where in this lifetime, some women have been so loving towards their children. I mean, bending over backwards, sacrificing everything only for the kids. And oftentimes I've seen in that individual's past life, they were not able to have children. So this was a yearning, this was a desire, this was a wish come true that happened in this lifetime. And therefore, they take extra care. They really want to make it worth their while, being a good mom, taking care of someone, just being a caretaker, wanting to take care of somebody. But I have seen this because there has been a lack of and a loss. Some people in a past life, I've seen this many times, where two people would be two women, and one would slow poison or give some type of herbs and things like this to one woman so that she just could not conceive. And so the man would leave that woman for the one that could conceive. So this is, it's bad. I know personally in certain societies right now, due to witchcraft and black magic, that still happens. The preference to the lady that can provide all, whether it's money, whether it's kids, whatever you need. And that's where that protection side comes in from. You have to protect yourself. You have to be on guard. You have to be suspicious, right? And it's unfortunate, but females have gotten that bad rep. But why is it like that? Because we've gone through it time and time again. Sometimes our best friends just stab us behind our back. Your best friend might be sleeping with your husband, for goodness sakes, right? And it happens. This kind of stuff happens. And it's a lot of insecurity. It builds in so much insecurity in an individual, especially in the feminine energy, because we want to be that person who is the center of attention. This person, whether you're with a woman, whether you're with a man, you just want that love. You want to have that feeling of being the center of attention because you're important. You're special. You're supposed to be special when you're with someone else. You are supposed to be that special person. So there is here, I've seen in many past life readings, if you see the nature of beauty and always wanting to look attractive. This is something that really, I would say it's almost one of my pet peeves when I do past life reading. For example, in the 1800s, 17, even back, like way back in the day, but it increased over from the year 1000 up until, I guess you could say, the 1800s. Women were literally in that category of just sit there and look pretty. Just sit there, look pretty, sit with your legs crossed, smell great, fix your hair, wear that corset, make yourself presentable. Why was that? Why is it that women were treated as objects? Well, as far as I know, in Canada, we have this, there used to be this law. Now it's there, the Persons Act. Women were not considered a person at some point in time, right? But then laws changed, people evolved. And so, yes, there's so many rights now for females, which is great. But back in the day, it would be the men that would basically control and do everything. They would be earning the coins, money, whatever. They would be in charge of businesses. They would be the sole provider and the protector. And what would the women do? Their job, as we all know, and still in some cultures, that's just the way cultures are, and that's fine, to stay at home, be a housewife, look after the kids. That's just how it's been for centuries. But the thing is that in olden times, in the era of, 1,000 years ago, there was just too much of this, where women were, and still are, quite submissive because of the way society had molded them. Women are physically more weaker. We can easily, become like picked up by a man sometimes. Like, it depends on your body size, but it's scary because, yes, we can be abducted, we can be kidnapped, we can be raped, sexually harassed. There's so much that happens to a female, and sometimes we don't even talk about it, which is bad. We need to. But there's so much that happens to a woman, and in the olden days, they used to try to get the females married as soon as possible. The average age I've seen from my past life readings is from the age of 14 to 16. 18 would actually still be considered very risky age. Nobody would actually want to get married to a girl at the age of 18 in some of my past life readings, because then it's considered that either there's something wrong with her, she's inauspicious, or there's obviously a reason why nobody is with her right now. So there would be these assumptions that people would make. So there was high level stress on women that when this man's going to come over, this is our only chance. He's from a rich family. You better look your best. You better learn how to cook and clean. From the readings that I've done from the past lives, what I really found fascinating was the fact that as soon as a woman would hit puberty or she gets her periods at the age of 12-ish, around then, from the age of 12 to 16, they would be groomed and they would be told that this is how you do housework, this is how you clean, this is how you cook, this is how you take care of your husband. Physically, training, giving you hints, teaching you how to be with a man. That was the training of women. And it was up to the age of 16. And at the age of 16, typically, many of the females that I've done readings for, they would get married. And of course, the females in a past life, some of them were males. But every female that has been in those past life readings has had to mostly go through this. And there was no other choice. There was no choice that, I don't want to get married. And these days, not everybody is getting married. It's just the way life is now. Things have changed. But in those days, marriage was a huge thing. And you had to get married. Because who is going to provide for you? Nobody's going to hire you. You can't open up your own business. This is why these days women are so passionate because for centuries life has been like this. But one of the most, I guess you can say, inherited, like it's in our DNA for females, most females out there, is beauty, right? Yes, women are damn hot and sexy. We can be so beautiful. Women can be so seductive when they need to be. But this feeling of wanting to be bigger and better than the other one, that stems from those past life memories. That if I am not like this, I will be rejected. And then I will feel bad. And then I won't get anybody. And yes, now we know that the clock is ticking. Yes, we do know that. But in those days, it wasn't about that. It was that, oh my goodness, I'm the last one left. This is so embarrassing for me and my family. There was this pressure. Now, it's that type of thought process and trauma that comes back into us in this lifetime as well. When we have, I guess you could say, get into puberty, or when we have puberty, at that point in time, everything changes. There's always this beautiful curiosity. That's just the way hormones are. But the thing is that there's this one aim. And I personally remember being in that, in that stage where I want to know, who am I going to marry when I grow up? I think that's the thing. Who am I going to settle with, right? It's always a question for women. Why is it so important? Why is it we obsess over it? That truly comes from the fact that in our past, history has just been like this. Why is it so important? It's important because we feel that we want to settle down. But why is that? Because that's what used to happen back in the day. And there are certain memories that we have. Sometimes we would get engaged. Sometimes somebody would die too soon and we would be waiting for them. Here I also have, competition. Yes. There has been a lot of competition where I've done readings where there's one individual, one man, and he has multiple amount of women or wives. And this could be some merchant that would be visiting a particular town. There was one reading that I did, which was really interesting. There was this one man, and in each town, each port city, with his ship, he was in the Navy. He was actually a merchant, not in the Navy, but naval, I guess you could say. He would cross to certain areas. This was somewhere near Europe. And at each port, there was a woman. None of the women knew about each other. None of the women knew about each other, but they knew that they were in love with this guy. And he would visit 3 to 4 women. And he would get his way. But the poor women would be waiting for him for months, because he would leave. And they legitimately thought that this was love. However, I guess that's called a player. That's a huge player, isn't he? But this guy used to go from place to place. And so there was this type of suspicion that grows in the heart. And you can just imagine if you pass away with that suspicion, if you die with those feelings in your next life, if you are brought back, if your soul wants to continue, it does come back with various type of permissions and things like that. But once you come back to planet Earth to continue your story, you do have kind of that feeling of once bitten, twice as shy. You've learned your lesson. You don't want to repeat it. You don't want to go there. So some of us inherently are just more suspicious. Some of us get a trigger in this lifetime if somebody betrays us. And so it becomes difficult for us to actually trust anybody ever again. Some of us have been betrayed multiple times in this lifetime. And so we just don't want to be with anybody anymore. And that is because of this lifetime, which means in the next, you're going to be super careful. Now, everybody is different, men and women. Some are very genuine and some are just users and abusers. And we just have to be careful and weed out by taking it slow when we're getting into relationships. Here, we are also given the reputation, as we know, witch trials, because there used to be a lot of women at home back in the day. They would be cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, stuff like that. And often the kids would get sick, people would get sick. And so there was that sense of that time of experimentation with herbs, with spices, mixing it together, making potions, making remedies for individuals to heal. At some point in time, other properties started, I guess you could say, being put into this, meaning manifestation. Now, some of these people at that point were considered witches. And you will hardly hear about a trial that would have been for a man. It was so famous for a female to be burnt at the stake, burnt alive, beheaded, because at some point she crossed over to what they considered witchcraft. Some of it would be legitimate witchcraft. Many rituals, like cutting off a claw of a crow, spiders, the heart of an owl, things like that. People do that kind of stuff. That still happens now. But in those days, if that was suspected, then of course it was considered absolutely evil. However, it branched off from simply being a caretaker, simply being somebody that wants to heal an individual, somebody that wants to protect themselves and their family. And then, of course, at that time, back in the day, back in ancient times, there would be that sense of jealousy and competition. That, oh, I absolutely love this particular individual, but he loves somebody else. I can't take it. I need to be with this person. And so, some of the women would do this. They would send negative energies through elements of the earth, worship certain deities, and get the job done. And it would work. It would work. And the reason why it continued is it actually worked. That's why they would continue with it until finally somebody would get caught. And of course, people would write down things. They would share word of mouth. And of course, it would spread. That, hey, I did this. And you know what? You can try this. It actually works. I got this guy. However, I will be creating one day another audio recording regarding love spells, because that's a no-no karmically. It's a very, very bad, it's a very bad, I guess, it's just a bad karmic deed. That's what it is. It's just bad all over, because it really does come back in a very negative way, mostly in this lifetime, or it can affect your kids or people that you love, or it can come back in the next life. Some people don't care about the next life, but this is why the soul is here, to become more wiser, bigger and better than what it was before. Now, this is something that even now we have. Oh, love spells are so famous. We want to get the guy. Why is it so important to be with somebody? That's exactly it. It's because it stems from that fear of rejection from 1,000 years ago, from 500 years ago. I have to look my best. I have to go get Botox. I got to get my nails done, my lips done. And that's fine. Some people feel it and they want it, and that's good. There's no problem with that. But when it comes to the point where you are changing your identity to please the masses, to please other people, that's you just being artificial. At some point in time, you lose yourself in the materialistic world, and you forget what really matters. Some of us do that. I do believe it's important as an individual to take care of yourself, to look good as much as you can. But to do something that might create a negative effect in the long run, like a like a saggy bum, where they have had some pretty bad surgeries that have happened, right? It's very bad. I don't like that, because I think it's the worst thing that could happen to somebody when you actually go for an operation and you look great for, 1 or 2 months, a third month, fourth month, something happens. That's just That's just bad because the individual already had self-confidence issues. And if this happens, holy smokes. The cure for that would have been to build that confidence, not through materialistic, but through the spiritual, and building up your own self-confidence and finding what it is that you're really good at in this lifetime and trying to excel in that. But in certain places, like certain areas of the world where there are metropolitan cities, cities that are near, for example, show business, it's just the way it is. It's just the way society is. You can't really escape it. And so that really does depend on the individual. But even if someone is all into that, it is still very important to not forget the spiritual aspect of who you really are on the inside. Here we also have, I have another, I made little notes here. Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, sex, and fertility. So many of us, we look up to idols, right? We look up to, when we're little girls, Barbie. Oh, Barbie, Barbie, Barbie. I think internationally all of us know. Thin waist, big hips, tiny little feet, nice boobs. The typical female that exists. Oh my gosh. And yes, recently, in the past few years or so, they've changed the structure of it because it's not healthy. It doesn't look healthy. But this is exactly it, right? Society has molded us in this way to be like this. And so because of this, sometimes women, we spend so much money, we spend so much time, energy, effort into just looking our best. And of course, this is the way society has been, right? However, that nurturing and that caring aspect inside of someone, that does come through. For example, when we're little girls, we have dollies, right? We have dolls. Many of us, some people in developing countries or what we call third world countries, underdeveloped countries, don't have that advantage of having a little doll. In fact, they may need to physically take care of their sister or their brother who is a baby. And that's just a totally different story. But that nurturing quality, it just starts right from childhood, within society as well. And so some of us do feel like that. Some of us don't. Some of us play with, I don't know if they still have them, but G.I. Joes. The Real American Hero. Toy figures, toys that are made for typically what they say for boys. Some girls play with that. Why do they do that? Because they resonate with it. Because in their past life, they were a man. They were a guy. Either they would be, and I'm getting a vision right now. I'm getting a vision of a girl playing with dinky cars or like sports cars as a kid. However, in a past life, she was on a chariot and she was going very fast on a horse, very much like what you would call a chariot, like a man on a chariot that would, like speeding. It's speeding. Okay, I just had that vision. But okay, that's something, I guess intuitively I'm getting messages now. That's something that people do now because of an effect that happened back then. So there are certain things that we do, and the reason why we do it. One of the worst things, though, I do feel, and out of all of the readings that I've done, one thing I have noticed is that feeling of a man coming to your home and you sitting down, looking pretty, staying quiet, not talking, just because you are going to get married off. Somebody needs to marry you off, and you need to just be that showpiece for this person. That is too common. I've seen that. And that is exactly why now in this society we have that expectation. You know, those posters, those creams, those outfits, that fashion. It all comes from that. It's not just about being a woman, But the woman herself sometimes feels this on the inside. The feminine energy feels this on the inside. Even for a man, I've had a lot of same-sex couples come to me for readings as well. Even for a man in this lifetime who has more of the feminine qualities and feminine energy, he may wear a golden colored scarf or a pink scarf. He may wear bangles just because he likes fashion. If not bangles, he may wear like a gold chain on his wrist. Something that not a lot of alpha males would do or would wear. Why is this person behaving like this? Why is this person wearing this? Why is this man so feminine? Well, simply because, as some of you might have seen in the other video, the Divine Masculine, that particular type of individual would have been a female in his past life. And so those qualities of looking good, fixing the hair, making sure the beard is nice, making sure the skin and the hands look nice. Why do some people do this? It's because in their past, that individual was a female. A lot of people don't know that, but because I do these readings, I see a lot of stuff, and it's like an eye-opener. It's like, whoa, this comes from someplace else. This is very deep-rooted. So there are men out there that have a lot of feminine qualities and energy. Why does this person have all of these feminine qualities? How can they appreciate flowers? Painting flowers. It's such a feminine thing. Well, in a past life, that person loved flowers. She used to garden. And in this lifetime, it's a man. She used to love singing. Songs for her children, lullabies. This lifetime, it's a man creating music. Creating music for the world to hear. And it's soulful. It's right from the soul. And it's damn good. There's so many artists out there. Through history. So good. Amazing work. Some people have done. So touching. And it really does come from the soul. Here I also have Cleopatra, who had so much wit and wisdom. She, I would say, was one hell of a woman. Good, man. Oh my God. That woman was an example of every type of characteristic that a woman would have in terms of being fierce, in terms of being seductive, being treated like a queen, having a bath of milk and honey, all that kind of stuff. Just, she had a huge sense of feminine energy, but she also had masculine energy. She had a lot of masculine energy. She would be able to get the job done, but through her feminine side. She didn't have to act like a man or become a man in a way where she would be commanding in that type of way. But she had those qualities and she would get the job done. Even now in the workplace, all of us females, it's very difficult to be in a man's world. And it's still a man's world. We wear our suits. We try to we try to ignore those men who are staring at our boobs when they should be looking at our face. It's all that, right? It's difficult. It's difficult to be in that type of environment, but then we have to put on this cold mask, this cloak that, no, I'm a man. Treat me like a man because I'm no less than you. Right now, the problem is when we do this, a lot of people end up ignoring us too. One thing I do want to say to some of you ladies out there, and maybe people who are having just a bit more feminine energy, in the workplace, because I do so many relationship readings, right? This is why I'm saying this. In the workplace, we do end up becoming more masculine. That's very common because of the environment that we're in. But when you come home, when you are with your loved one, with your lover, your partner, your husband, whatever, bring out the feminine energy at that point. Leave the masculine energy at work. You have to separate the two. Unless you are an alpha and the person you're with is a beta, That's different. But if you are with an alpha personality, then you need to bring out that feminine side so that there is that attraction. The masculine is attracted to feminine. You can't have two feminines, you can't have two masculines. Even in same-sex couples, there's always one that is more masculine, one that's feminine. There is that opposite. It attracts each other. So that's just a little tip for some of you out there, because I've done so many readings with people who are so successful. I mean, CEOs, directors, people who have started businesses that are like so successful. However, the one thing that hurts them is the fact that there's no man or masculine energy around them that wants to pursue something. In the workplace, sure, let's work on a project. Let's work on this together. But when it comes to actually settling down with somebody, that truly becomes an issue. Because the woman is still in that masculine energy. And where does that come from? It comes from our bloody workplace. It comes from the environment that we're in. It sounds really weird, but when I was in some small villages in India, I lived there for a long time. I was growing up there during my late teens, mid-20s, and early 20s. It's going to sound crazy, but I actually used to dress like a guy. I used to dress like a man. I used to have a tutor in the evening for 2 or 3 different subjects, and I would have to go in this marketplace, through the market, off to a distant area to go to see my tutor. Now, I would wear baggy jeans. I would wear a huge jacket. I would wear a cap. I'd hide my hair inside my cap. I'd actually look like a man. Why did I do that? Holy smokes. Because I was afraid that I would get raped. I would get harassed. Men would chase me. The only time I actually got caught one day was I was at my gate at my boarding. That was my hostel. And I turned around because somebody was trying to get in, but it was what you call it. It was a car, and the car flashed its light on my face. And people don't know what I look like, but I am East Indian, what typical East Indians look like. But my face is, I look different. I have green eyes. And that car flashed its light on my face and my green eyes. Some of the men who were standing across the street, they saw that, oh my goodness, the eyebrows, the eyes, they could see the structure of my face, and everything just kind of popped right out. And I was like, oh my God, they know I'm a girl. But the thing is, this is how bad it was. I had to hide because at that time in the evening when I would go, women would not be outside. All the women would be indoors. I, however, being a foreign student, it was very difficult for me to adjust to a different lifestyle and education. So I needed that extra help. And so I used to walk every day. And for years, I would avoid. And the reason I did that was because, yes, a lot of bad things did happen before that. And it was only after nasty things happened to me, abusive things, I decided to change and pretend like I was a guy. Isn't that bad? That's how bad it got, for me at least. And so I would talk like a guy, would walk like a guy. Everything was like a man. And it became a part of my personality until I kind of grew out of the phase, until I left that place, which was extremely like a small town, old town. On the streets, they would have a lot of drunkards. This is also one of the reasons. So they would drink after 6 o'clock or so. And they would have a lot of drunk men on the streets. And so I'd have to pass beside these drunken men. Holy smokes, you could smell it from a mile away. And there would be no women. My shoes, they were like the shoes of a man. My entire wardrobe was like that for years. And so, unfortunately, it became a part of my personality where a part of me was always a tomboy. But then when I grew up, like when I was like, this was at the age of 18, 19, around 20, 21, things started to change for me. I moved to a different area. I embraced my feminine qualities because seeing other girls taking care of themselves, I was like, hey, I'm a girl. It's safer here, so I can express myself. You see, it just really, really depends on what environment you're in. And so this is why also now I see when I have my customers, some of them do have a lot of skill. Like they're really amazing at what they do. However, they just can't attract a man. And the reason for that is because that masculine energy that they have all around at the workplace, it becomes a part of your life. You bring it back home and you just don't attract. You're just treating everybody at home just like that. There has to be a little bit of a balance, and there has to be a little bit of distance between you and that from work to home. Even right now, especially with the way the world is, a lot of people are starting to work from home. On the computer, you're with your boss or whatever, you are in that mode. Suddenly, you see your spouse or somebody walking by, and you're still in that mode because now you're at home. Things are changing. So I just wanted to mention that, keep in mind that you are beautiful. You have the inherent qualities that God has given you of beauty, of love, of feelings, caring, protecting, nurturing qualities. All of that stems from you. And one of the reasons why we're also very intuitive, woman's intuition, right? There's that saying, woman's intuition. The reason why it's so strong over the past few years I've realized is we as women, we have the ability to have children. And when we actually have a child inside of us, we have another soul. So it's like one body, but two souls. It's that connection between us and that soul. That's the intuition. That right there is an energetic connection. But where did that particular soul come from? From another celestial plane of existence. And so because that soul, the baby's, the fetus soul, is connected to another realm, we are indirectly connected to that realm as well. This is why, on average, women have a bit more of intuition. We're kind of a little bit more into the spiritual side of things. A lot of men are not. That is very common. In any household, a woman may do something that's more spiritual, superstitious, certain things she may believe, but the majority of the time the guy won't believe it. He won't think like that. His mindset is completely different. But where does that come from? Because we are inherently connected to the celestial beings. We are like that. This is what makes us different from men. And the feminine qualities, some men in this lifetime might be very highly intuitive. And that is because in a past life, they would have been a female. But in addition to that, some people are just more religious, more spiritual as well. And so they do have a connection directly with the divine too. So that also helps as well. Just meditating. And when you're meditating, always remember to meditate on pure white light. Do not keep your mind empty. Do not keep it blank. I've had people that have opened their third eye and they're unable to actually close it. And they now see dead people. So let's not go there, everyone. Let's be careful when we're meditating. Focus on the pure white light. Anything, but just do not keep your mind blank. If it's blank, it's like a blank canvas, and anything and anybody can come and put anything on it. You don't want that. You want to command it, and you want to know what it is that you're feeling and thinking. You don't want any other influences in your life. Here, we had some beautiful women that have been warrior women, right? Joan of Arc. We have, I believe it's in India, Jhansi Ki Rani. This is Lakshmi Bai. We've had, for example, even Cleopatra. Like, we've had so many women over the centuries, and they have been successful. Why were these women so masculine in nature? Because in their past life they were men. Men meaning that the masculine energy has come through into this lifetime, and so it makes them more aggressive. That past memory of being the type who is a leader, who's confident, who can get the job done, that comes through. So yes, there have been women, but you will never see a typical, what we call a girly girl who's feminine, go off to battle, for example. It'll be difficult for her because she's just not made like that. There's some people that are just very soft, very gentle, and very feminine, and so they cannot be even in those type of jobs. It's an extreme different spectrum. However, the ones that can tolerate that are people that remember that masculine side of themselves from a past life. And so in this lifetime, they can have those type of jobs or hobbies accordingly. Now, I also have here insecurities and fear of being rejected. Oh, yeah. That comes from the place where people really have been worried. How do I look? Do I look okay? Does my hair look okay? Oh my goodness. This is not just us. I remember I had this lovely book. I used to volunteer in a museum for many years, actually. It was wonderful. I love history. And I saw a mirror in the Egyptian gallery. So I saw a mirror. This is like from 1200 BC and all that. They had a mirror for a woman that was metallic, and the surface of it was metallic, but the woman would look at herself. She had black eyeliner that was more of a black oxide, so they would use that on their eyes, right, the makeup. They would enhance their lips by putting red color on it. They even had tweezers, for goodness sakes. I had no idea they had tweezers back then. That was pretty amazing. And they would pluck. They would pluck their eyebrows. They would pluck the hairs that they found that were not pretty. They already knew this. Thinking about it now, I thought that this is just something that modern day society thought of, but no. Some of you might know that in ancient times, the women were just all into what they call beauty. I mean, they would have, I believe they had waxing back then too, so they would actually take care of themselves. Egyptian women, they would wax their underarms with, I believe they used to use honey instead of what we call sugar and lemon, or sometimes they would use coconut oil. But they had a variety of things to do with beauty. It was always a thing. It's been like that for, oh my God, more than a millennia, right? And that is what we have remembered. We remember this through our soul, that this is what we're supposed to do, this is what we're supposed to look like. But now all that's changing. Society's changing. So much has happened over the past 100 years. There's so much advancement now, and people are not what they used to be. Our perception is changing. There's more women's rights now. Barbie has changed, I believe. So there are many things that have changed over time. But we do the things that we do because of things that have happened in the past, in our own individual past lives that we've had. Here we also have, suitors to look pretty. Now, nowadays we have apps. You swipe left, swipe right, and you get with somebody, you hook up with somebody. But the problem is that it's very difficult for a female who back in the day would only be dedicated to one individual. Nowadays we might be with plenty. And so we can't really, what they call pair bond. It becomes difficult. Inherently, we are supposed to be with that one true person that we have for the rest of our life. But as a female, as some of you know, I have another audio recording called Sensually Intense Spiritual Connections. So when our chakra centers, when we end up becoming intimate with an individual, their soul and our soul, the essence of it actually merges. And so there is this powerful spark that occurs. Now the thing is, you can do that with one person, maybe another, but at some point in time, it's almost as if your soul will become numb. but you have only mated with maybe one or two people who have really made an impact in your life. And you can really never find that type of person ever again. And it hurts you. This is because, like I say, in our past lives, we were not with multiple men. It just wasn't the way it is. Men were with multiple women, but women were not with multiple men. This is why now it does hurt a woman, a female, the feminine energy gets so hurt if a man goes and he's sleeping around with other women as well. Because we get that feeling of rejection. Oh my goodness, I did not look pretty enough. I did not take care of him. What does she have that I don't have? There is that fear. And my goodness, it is so embedded in society. It's so embedded. And it's not just society, but it's ourselves. It's that insecurity that we feel ever since we're young, even from the past life. And so because of this, men have had that opportunity of being with many women. They're used to it. It does hurt a man, but their expression of their pain, suffering, and sorrow is very different than a woman. As females, it is very difficult to let go of an individual because of that high level of intuition that I was mentioning, and because of the fact that we are more spiritual, and we have a connection with the other realm. It's a bit higher. The level is just a tad higher when it comes to spirituality. And so it really hurts us to the core of our being. And so we cry and we cry and we cry and we can't stop. We just lose it, right? Hell hath no fury, as a woman scorned. That saying, I don't think I said it properly, but many of you know that saying. It's so true. Because the emotions are so raw, they're so real, they're so true, that it would truly, truly hurt you to your core. And some women, we've seen it. There have been people who have hurt their husbands, they've hurt their partners, women and men as well. People kill, people commit suicide. There's so many things that happen to the extreme. But where does it come from? It comes from that emotional side of an individual. Not only from this lifetime, but from a past life as well. Here I've also had this example of, just sit there and look pretty was the job, and that was an embedded job. Like that was embedded in society, to just sit there and look pretty. I did mention that earlier. Here I also have one piece of information where the soldier never returned and the fear of loss. So sometimes as women, we freak out kind of easily if a guy doesn't pick up his phone, if he doesn't text message me on time. Where is he? What is he doing? Why was he there? Why was he with her? We have so many questions. And it's because we have that fear that we're going to lose him. Some of us have had in our past, in this lifetime, but also in a past life, we've had those feelings of rejection where somebody has left us for somebody else. And if by chance you had this issue in a past life, my goodness, it will definitely affect you in this lifetime, because that is something that haunted you, and that will hurt you. Your friends might say, why does it bother you so much? Why don't you get over it? Why can't you get over it? It's because you, the individual who may have gone through this in a past life, are the only person that can actually experience this and feel it. The other people that you're dealing with may not have had those experiences. That's what makes you more sensitive and them not so. The problem is that they may have other types of experiences that they can relate to, but they can't relate to you because they have not had those experiences that you have had in a past life. I've had situations where two people have been engaged and one died in a battle. And so the woman just waits. She waits and waits And because she was engaged in society, she never got married. Nobody wanted to marry her because she was already, quote unquote, tainted. She was already taken. Who knows if she had touched the man? Oh my goodness, can't touch her because she touched the guy. Yeah, don't even get me started. As if the guy didn't touch her, right? So yes, I think we all know there is this double standard that does occur. But the standard is created because of women and men. Not just one particular sex. No, it's both genders here. Women are the way they are because of men, and men are the way they are because of women. If we had any other type of species or gender in society throughout history, things would have been different. But this is the way we are. And we are the way we are because of people around us and the way we've been treated. Now, of course, in this lifetime, if your father, your brother, if a male figure treated you either good or bad, that also makes you who you are now. And that is a totally different topic, and I am going to speak about that one day. I'm going to talk about that, but not in this particular audio recording. But this is something I wanted to mention. I do have another, I think I wrote down examples here. Let me see. Not yet. Okay, karmic cycle and trauma, yes, from a past life. The feelings of rejection. Oh my goodness, the feeling of betrayal, yes. We've had that where people have, yes, competition and polygamy. Yeah, so back in the day, in ancient times, there would be men, and they would have multiple wives. Now, that's another issue, okay? I'm just going to get into the history of that. For example, in the Arab culture, where these days it's so, and I'm going to say it, blown out of proportion, with the Muslim community, the Islamic faith, which is not what certain people perceive it to be. It's very much close to the Old Testament, and it's society and culture that's turning it into something else. However, let's talk about men who have multiple wives. Let's talk about that. Now, the feminine energy in those days, back in the days, and this was mostly prevalent in areas that were not industrialized, but advanced civilizations, would have women, again, stay at home. Some of them would actually own their own businesses. But I'm talking about ancient times. In those days, did we have the Salvation Army? No. Did we have welfare? No. Did we have women's rights? Did we even have police, for goodness sakes? No, we didn't have anything. So if a woman can't earn, and if she can't survive on her own, is she going to die? Is she going to be on the street? Where's she going to go? Somebody has to take care of her. The only thing in ancient times, the only type of, I guess you can say, action that another individual could have taken to help another female at the time, and this is in many societies, not just Muslim, not just in the Islamic faith. This is in many societies. Why would people take more than one wife? Because the men would go off to war and they would die. The woman is left with a child, many children. She is left penniless. She is left homeless. Let's put her out on the street. What happens to society? When you put a whole bunch of women and a whole bunch of kids, everybody becomes a beggar. Who's going to take care of them? Was there any welfare back then? Did they have rights? Did they have donation facilities? Did they have a shelter? No, they did not. Right? And so who came out? That was the masculine energy that created these types of societal norms. Hey, I'll take you in. I'll adopt your kid. Let's be together. I don't want to see you on the street. Why? Because the society would have turned into trash. economically, it would have been really bad for a society to have a whole bunch of beggars. Very bad. So in order to try to pick up that society, in order to try to fix all of the damage that had been done through battle, a lot of men would marry or simply take care of a woman, of the woman's child, and maybe even the rest of the extended family. I did one reading a long time ago where a man went off to battle, he died, but it was his best friend that came back. And his best friend took care of his friend's wife and the child. Was he sexual with the wife? In the beginning, no. But at some point he felt very guilty and very sad that the woman was still young. Her hormones were still raging. A woman's horny, all of us are. She needed a man's comfort. And so he provided that through compassion, not through desire, but through compassion for her because she needed somebody as a human being. At some point in time, some people, not everybody, some people prefer to be celibate. I was celibate for a very long time. But it's okay. Some people don't want it. Some people do want it. Some people can't live without it. Depending on the individual, this is something that I've seen, especially in that past life reading that I did, where the man eventually kind of gave in, but he had to discuss it with his wife, his first wife. And so eventually it worked. It was not like what we would call a modern day threesome. No. Those wives stay separate. They are separate. Those are like sister wives at that point. Now, is there jealousy? Oh, hell yes. Oh my gosh. Is there ever jealousy? Sometimes I've seen in other readings, when something like this happens, the original wife would get super duper pissed off. She would get so upset. She would be heartbroken. She would think, oh my goodness, I was the love of his life. I was the beauty queen. And now he brings in this girl who is young. Oh, I've done a reading like that too. That was bad. There was a man with 4 women. The 4th one was so young, and he only hung out with her. He would only sleep with her. She never was able to bear any kids because the women would always be feeding her something so that she would never have a child. She also died at a very young age. But this is it, right? People get jealous. Women get jealous. Men as well. Oh, men. Oh my God. Don't even get me started with men. Men and jealousy. Something's going to break, isn't it? That testosterone. This goes through the roof. But some women have a lot of rage too. Where does that come from? Again, from the past life, because they would have been that masculine energy. For the love of a woman, kingdoms have been created. We've also had kingdoms fall. You know, women think we don't have an influence. Oh my God, girls, we are able to make and break an entire empire. That is how strong an influence a female has. Yes, you think about it. Women do have a huge influence. We can make and break things. And it really does depend. Like sometimes men can become easily influenced. Sometimes some men can be manipulated. And so women do take advantage of that too. Yes, they do. But similarly, men do that. Men do that as well. All we have to do is just take things slow whenever we are in any connection. That's one thing I've noticed. With the amount of readings that I've done, it's best to just take things slow. Here, I wanted to just go over, yes, of course, being submissive, right? Being submissive is something that men or the masculine energy, even if you have 2 females, right? There's always that masculine energy one of them has. So one of them would be submissive. Now, why is it, and I'm going to say it, it's important sometimes to be submissive only if you want a connection to work. You have to have that masculine energy. You have to have the feminine energy. You have to have the dominant and the submissive. 2 submissive people, not going to work. A dominant, submissive, yes, will work. Two dominants will not work. Opposites attract. That's just the law of nature. Here we have being submissive. So sometimes it's okay in a romantic setting. Being in the work environment, sometimes it seems as if it's a weakness. So you have to be a little careful when you do that. Sometimes you can be submissive and still get your way. You see, in the workplace, right? Some females do that. They're able to get what they want. That's clever. Hats off to them. I don't know how. I can't do that. I've never been like that. But there are women that are really skilled, and they do get what they want, and they get it through their feminine energy. They get it. You don't have to be that macho individual. Bloody hell, just use what you got. Attract the heck out of a guy and get what you want. You don't have to be that masculine energy at work all the time. Sometimes you do. You do. In certain fields, you just have to. You can't be any other. But the majority of the time I've seen that there is this ability that females have, and we do have that influence over many, many people, many aspects, many things. I'm having, I don't know why I'm having a vision of charity work. Yes, so I am having a vision right now of charity work. So I'm seeing people like a tribe from Africa and people that have gone there to give water. I see females who are from, I would say, Western society. They're helping. So I'm adapting and learning new ways of increasing the nurturing qualities of an individual. So it's not that, okay, I see, okay. I guess what the message right here that I'm receiving from one of the celestial beings up there is that Gabriel, okay, I'm getting Gabriel. Gabriel's giving me this message. One of the things that is important as being the feminine energy, not just a female, but is to increase world love. Yes, Mother Nature. Not just in the home, not just in your neighborhood, but thinking of it on a grander scale. What is the feminine energy? How strong can it be? It can adopt. It can love. It can go and help people in countries where there is a shortage of food, shelter, clothing, medicines. That is the quality of the feminine energy. Men can do that too. There's doctors all around. They go to places, nurses, helpers, social workers. There's so many people. What's interesting is that many of these people that go to these places, they're very much affected in the heart. I see men right now in my vision. I see men crying. This is more of a European-looking guy and a white Caucasian. But I see them crying because the pain and suffering and sorrow of the human heart is too much for them to bear. You see where this is coming from? I'm just going to open my eyes right now. This is coming from them understanding and feeling that feminine side of them from a past life. Because they used to be parents. They used to be a lover. They used to be a mother or a sister. They were someone who had that feminine quality. In this lifetime, they're going and they're volunteering. They're trying to help out. Not just a local community, but being a nurturing character for the entire planet. Taking care of Mother Nature, taking care of other people. So it's funny that I even had this vision. Was definitely not expecting that. I don't, these things just come when I'm doing these things. It just happens. But one of the messages I'm getting here is that being feminine energy, having that quality, whether it's a man or a woman, not only means that you take care of your loved ones, your family, your friends, but also society, also the planet, also the world. So many of us love gardening. We love flowers. Oh my goodness, do women love flowers, right? It's just a thing, right? We are part of Mother Nature. That's Mother Nature. We as females can be mothers, most of us. So that's how we connect to all of this. It's actually pretty fascinating when you get into the details of these things. I had one more thing I wanted to share here. Example. Yeah. I already talked about that, where there was one reading that I had done, a past life reading, where there was 3 wives. The third one had just come in. This was another reading that I had done, and they were just very jealous. Now, why was the jealousy there? Not only because she was beautiful, but also because the first 2 wives already had children, and they wanted the inheritance. So typically, a man that would have had, back in the past, in ancient times, if a man would have had more than 2 to 3 wives, it was because he could afford it. It was because he was rich. Which is why they would, like I mentioned, they would take care of other women because of issues that happened in society, in the local town. The husbands would go off to battle. They would die, leaving the women and children. To learn more about that, definitely go to the other video called Divine Masculine, and you'll see the amount of wars that we've had, because I think all of us know in history. That's happened. A lot of men have died. So what happened to the women? Who took care of them? The population of men decreased, and so the women increased as well as the children. So somebody had to take care of them. And so sometimes these guys would take 2 to 3 wives. Now the problem with this particular example that I have in this issue, this past life, the issue was they wanted the inheritance. And so the third wife came in, and the amount that would have been given if she would have had 2 to 3 kids would have been less to the other 2. So they actually tried to poison her. And there was a time, yes, where they also poisoned 2 of the children. Little kids. It was really devastating. Sometimes when I do those readings, it's very draining because I can't help but I see it. So it's emotional. I start to cry. Like, you don't want to see kids being poisoned while they're, oh my gosh. Because I'm seeing it again now. An aunt, well, not an aunt, but it was one of the mothers, the wife. So she's feeding these children every single day, like porridge or something like that for breakfast. She would come over, bring something for them, acting as if, everything's okay. We're all friends here. We're just sister wives. But let me just give your child this so that your child can die. Because I don't want your child to live. One was 4 and one was 6, I'm seeing right now. There were such innocent things, and it was just devastating when I saw that, because the woman could not understand why this happened and how this happened. The kids were getting sick. They were becoming pale. They had dark circles under their eyes. It was slow poison. And eventually the kids passed away. And so there was nothing for them to inherit. And for this reason, the 2 women that were there before, they were able to inherit most of it, right? And I mean, I can only tell you, karma does not spare anybody. Karma will come back. Whether it happened in that lifetime, to their kids maybe, or even afterwards, they would have gotten their karma. And here we also have a maid. Yes, I've had many, many readings where there have been people who've been maids. This could have been a maid that was like a white Caucasian, European, or this could also be somebody who, I've had a lot of maids who have been African American, in fact. And this is something that was very common, but the maids often would be used sexually and abused sexually. Nobody would know. Sometimes the lady of the house would know that the husband, the man of the house, is going and, screwing the lady downstairs in her quarters and coming upstairs. Meanwhile, she gets pregnant. And then, my goodness, that's a whole different story. When they get pregnant, typically the man would say, no, this is not my kid. Sometimes the lady of the house would go and get the lady to, the maid to go and get an abortion, feed her things to try to induce, and so that the baby would leave. and the fetus would be, aborted, I guess you could say. But the woman would have to go through a lot, right? These maids would have to go through a lot. And so sometimes in this lifetime, we're afraid. Not only in this lifetime do we have to go through a lot, but from the past life trauma, we are afraid of certain men. We are afraid of getting into maybe even in an elevator because we could have been gang raped in a past life. So we're just afraid of men. There are many things that women have, and the reasons why we have them, not because of everything we've experienced in this lifetime, but because there are certain phobias, certain things, insecurities, and fears that we have that stem from our soul trauma that comes from our past life. We have feelings and instincts that come through in this lifetime, not necessarily a memory, but it's a feeling and an instinct. And so we have a hunch. We know that, hey, I shouldn't go down that dark alley. Not just common sense, of course, but we shouldn't because something might happen. Why? Because something might have happened in a past life. Here we also have, yes, engaged lady that waited on the shore for her fiancé to come home. There was a lady, I believe, I don't know, but I think she died at the age of 63. It's one of my readings, but she waited and waited for years, waiting for the ship of her fiancé to come home. I think at some point in her heart, she doubted that he would, but she always had hope. She always had hope. But I still see it now. It was either Shetland or the British Isles. It was one of the shores there. And she's sitting on this shore. She's sitting on the cliff. The house is there. I still see that. And she was always just waiting for that ship to come back. But it never did. And she died old. In the society that she was in, she was the only one out of all her brothers and sisters that did not have children. Sometimes people would make fun of her because she never married. She never could marry because she was labeled as somebody who was engaged. And so for that reason, it was embarrassing for her. But she didn't associate with too many people, but she would always love to sit on that shore, on that cliff area, just beside the house, just waiting to see, okay, is his ship going to come back? But he never did. He died. He died literally, I think it was 2 or 3 years later, but she waited the entire time until she died. And I think she died in her 60s or something like that. But this was another reading. I've done so many readings, it's sometimes a blur, but there's certain ones that really stand out. And this is just somebody who's yearning and waiting. And this is sometimes how we as women have that capacity and that feeling of wanting to wait for someone. You know, people say, just move on. Why are you waiting? There's many of us that have experienced that if we are in love with someone, it doesn't matter how many years it takes. Either we can't get over them or we will wait. Like in some songs, wait until the end of time. Where does that come from? That honestly comes from the past life connections that we've had with some people who went off to battle. They never came back and we just waited. Because we've been there before, we can do it again. I've waited before. It's not too hard. It's a part of our nature. Some of us are able to do that. We're able to wait and not have a problem waiting. Some of us, however, do have more masculine energy, and we can wait for a certain period of time, but then it becomes illogical, and then we need to move on. Some of us females are like that. I, however, am that type that would wait. And then, you think of it practically, and it's like, who's losing in the end? Who's losing? Who's getting older? Who's losing on building memories? At the end of the day, it's us, the ones that wait. And it's important to have the grieving process. It's important to heal. But then it's important to pick yourself back up and then move on. Because if you wait too long, there is a beautiful life that was written for you. And if it's not that one person, it would be someone else. But as long as you keep your heart and mind open and willing to give and receive love, only then are you actually going to get something. But there would be these cases where these people would wait for years. And this is something that I noticed, that in this lifetime, some of the women that I've done readings for, this is why it's easy. Some people have waited for 11 years, some have waited for 20 years. 2 different people I did readings for. I remember those because I was like, oh my God, that's a very long time. I think you need to move on. However, they just can't. And that comes from that memory of back in the day. Because if they move on, they feel, and some of you might feel this, they feel as if they're cheating on the person. They feel as if they're being unfaithful somehow, or not loyal, by being with someone else or by trying to move on. It's the strangest feeling. I know men really don't have that type of mindset. But myself as a female, I have felt that if I have loved somebody, I cannot move on and think about somebody else, because there's a strange underlying feeling that, oh my goodness, am I cheating on this person? And this person might not be talking to you for years. But it's almost as if you're energetically cheating on them. Like you're energetically moving on, but you don't want to, because you don't want to betray the memory of them. So this is something that some women, not just me, but some women, some of my clients, have felt like too. That even though you're not with the person, you're not moving on because you feel guilty and bad about it. Where does this guilt come from? It comes from those past life times when we were waiting, either on a shore or at home or wherever, where we were waiting for our men to come back. And we were used to waiting. It was a part of our life. But like I mentioned in the other video, which is the Divine Masculine, there has been a repetitive, many, many times over centuries where men have gone off to battle, they die, then they come back again. So similarly, if they've gone off to battle, then the feminine energy has also waited. The feminine energy has been waiting and waiting again, and the next lifetime and the next lifetime, waiting, waiting, waiting. Always that fear of losing. Maybe he won't come back this time. That's why we're very protective. That's why we get quite insecure. We get scared that we have this dreadful fear that something might happen. Not all of us feel like this, but some of us do, the ones that have gone through certain things like this in a past life. So if some of you, who are hearing this, if some of you do feel that your emotions are very different than the typical feminine energy that you have met, like your friends, somebody teaching you something, but you just don't get it. It's because you are different, because you have gone through these things in your past life personally. You have had certain experiences. You do what you do because you have gone through something. And nobody else can understand that, just you can. I personally can understand it because I've gone through it, and I also am able to do readings for people and see what it is that they're feeling. So as an empath, I can see and feel and understand where an individual is coming from. But this is something I just wanted to mention. It's a huge, huge topic. I don't even think I covered as that much, but I tried to kind of cover everything. I appreciate all of you for hearing this audio recording. Let me know in the comments below. I hope I've provided a little bit of more understanding in terms of the feminine qualities and the energy that we have. Why do we behave the way that we do? And I know for the masculine energy, it is always very difficult for a man because they say, I just don't get her. I don't understand her. It's difficult to understand women. Well, it's because we have a variety of emotions and feelings, and we are very much in tune with that. And many of the things that we've had in terms of experience in this lifetime, plus a past life, that makes us a little bit complicated. But that's just the way it is. At the end of the day, many of my clients and many of you who are hearing this, it's for relationships. We want love. We want a relationship. We want something that's promising, long-lasting. We want all that. And it's hard because we do fall in love fast. and we're very emotional. One thing I can say is try to take things slow. Try to see the red flags. If you know you have self-esteem issues, don't get caught in a cycle with a person that is taking advantage of you, because you won't even know it, that they're taking advantage of you. I will do separate videos for those type of topics as well, because I do feel it's very important. I've done a lot of readings where I've seen that men and the masculine energy, even if it's a woman and a woman, the masculine energy does tend to take advantage of the person who does have self-esteem issues and the fear of losing someone. It's all over, it's overall very manipulative. So it's very bad because it's just toxic at the end of the day. And you are not the best version of yourself when you're in that type of a situation. All right. I hope I was able to provide some type of guidance, some type of clarity. Whatever information I provided, I hope it was helpful, it was useful, and I will see you guys again. You all take care and stay safe. Bye now.